President Trump unloading on Nancy Pelosi, Joe Biden, and other Democrats during a fiery showdown with the media. Trump telling the House Speaker to put up or shut up about impeachment. He's ready to send Pelosi a letter daring her to put Democrats on record by holding a vote.
This is the greatest witch hunt in the history of our country. So the Democrats, unfortunately, they have the votes. They can vote very easily, even though most of them, many of them, don't believe they should do it. Pelosi and their real leaders, AOC +3, that's their real leaders. I really believe that they're going to pay a tremendous price at the polls.
Trump also turning up the heat on the Bidens. It comes as Ukraine's top prosecutor says he's reviewing cases that involve the energy company Hunter Biden worked for. The president calling out what he says is serious corruption from Sleepy Joe and his son.
I was investigated by the Obama administration. What I saw Biden do with his son, he is pillaging these countries and he's hurting us. We want to investigate anything having to do with corruption. I'm only interested in corruption. I don't care about politics. I don't care about Biden's politics. I've watched Biden over the years, and Biden is not the brightest person. I never thought he was going to win. He got taken off of the garbage heap by Obama.
While Trump fights back against impeachment, a member of the squad is threatening to throw Trump officials in prison.
Well, what happens when they don't comply? This is the first time we've ever had a situation like this. So they're trying to figure out, no joke, they're trying to figure out, well, is it the D.C. police that goes against them? No. Where do we hold them? I will tell them they can hold off those people right here in Detroit. We'll take care of them.
Now, we remember, Dana, she was the one at the beginning who says we have to impeach the mother effer, and now she wants to lock them up.
Yeah, so on the lock them up thing, so that's not how any of this works. But, you know, I think she probably knows that. It was interesting to see some of the reactions of these town halls when these members were back and hearing from them get a little bit ahead of themselves. And I imagine that Nancy Pelosi, who is wanting to be the very measured person, very thoughtful person, she's the prayerful one, that she has all these Democrats out there saying things like, we want to, well, whatever Maxine Waters said, I can't remember that one.
Isolated.
Solitary confinement.
Yeah.
Trump's White House is trying to convince the American people that the Democrats are just doing everything political. And that's working in their favor in a lot of ways, especially when you have the chairman of the Intelligence Committee, Adam Schiff, getting 4 Pinocchios from the Washington Post for not being fully forthcoming about the committee's contacts with the whistleblower before the complaint was filed. I do think, though, that the White House has some resetting to do as well, because the more they talk about this, the more they're not able to stay on that one key message, which is the Democrats are the do-nothing Democrats, and that we are actually here doing stuff on behalf of the American people, talking about the economy, the unemployment rate down again to 3.5%. The stock market is having a little bit of resurgence. I looked to Dagan for that. The House really isn't a question for the Democrats. They have 235 votes. The Senate, there's very little chance, like maybe zero minuscule chance that the Republicans would ever join the Democrats in this effort. So now, really, it's in the court of public opinion. The American people will get to decide. But if I were the White House, I'd reset a little bit over the weekend.
Well, that should be the cornerstone of the strategy. It's the do-nothing Democrats, and this is a partisan inside job witch hunt. You mentioned the Pinocchios. The president also mentioned some Pinocchios. Let's listen, and Juan can react.
Well, I heard Adam Schiff got 4 Pinocchios. That's good. He should have gotten them 2.5 years ago. When I speak to foreign leaders, I speak in an appropriate way. If you notice, they don't mention the call that I had with the president of Ukraine. They don't mention that because it was so good. The only time they mentioned it was when Adam Schiff made it up. You talk about Pinocchios, that should get 10 Pinocchios.
10. It's quite a few. Juan, do you think, do you regret that Adam Schiff wasn't honest when he didn't tell everybody, even people on his committee, that he met with the whistleblower before?
Wait, he didn't meet with the whistleblower.
His team did.
No, people who are on his staff did. Right, but he didn't, and I think that he got 4 Pinocchios because he didn't clear it up. He had every opportunity to say, hey, what I meant to say was they didn't meet with me or with the panel or the committee, but they met with committee staff. And so I think he was properly chastened. I think he made a mistake. And I think he made a mistake with the parody. You know, I mean, I understand it was just, you know, summarizing what the president had to say, but it's right there in front of you, so he should have just read it. My feeling is, though, it's pretty funny to hear the president say, this is all about corruption. I'm just concerned about corruption. I'm not concerned about politics. Wait a minute. Only time I see him screaming about corruption with the Ukrainians, the Russians, anybody else, it's Joe Biden or Hillary Clinton. I've not heard anybody else cited by President Trump with regard to corruption. So I think this is highly political.
I think Afghanistan, he's mentioned corruption. He's mentioned corruption in China. He has mentioned corruption in Africa.
In China with who?
UN?
Yeah, Mexico,
with Biden's
Central
son.
America. I mean, there's lots of corrupt nations out there. Dagan, how do you see this unfolding at the end of the week?
Well, everybody always likes to act like President Trump is unhinged, but that was brilliant political messaging because now he's trying to change the focus not just from Ukraine, but to China and the Bidens. And more, Joe Biden, from the Democrats' perspective, looks expendable. He's disposable. He is political picnic cutlery, if you will. They can get rid of them. They hate Trump more than they like Joe Biden, clearly. They're betting this impeachment push completely on the Ukraine. And it's going to mean a drip, 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 drop, drop, plop, plop about Hunter Biden coming out of the Ukraine and his, I mean, it's obvious influence peddling, whatever vice president knew about it or not. And it smells like pay to play. That's going to be the messaging. Biden already had a reputation for being undisciplined, lousy at fundraising. He's still lousy at fundraising, rusty and unfocused, and he represents everything that the very left-wing party hates. I think that he's a goner, and he's barely leading in the national polls.
And not only that, .com has a great piece right now, and it's citing devastating characterizations of his fundraising haul by other Democrats in the party. He's actually lost momentum from the first and second quarter here. He's being outraised not only by Sanders and Warren, but by Buttigieg, and that's not good.
No, it's not. Jesse, no, it's not.
Slow things down.
I'm just thinking, about how it wasn't too long ago the Dems cared so much about pursuing corruption. Remember that? The collusion, deluge, they cared. But not when Trump wants to pursue corruption. So I tell them to STFU. You know what that stands for,
Yes.
Dana?
I think so.
Silence the false ukulele.
Oh!
Yes.
Didn't see
Here's
that
a theory.
coming.
I have a theory on why the media is talking about how angry Donald Trump is, as if they have nothing to do with it, right? I have a theory on why Donald Trump is actually expressing anger, and it has nothing to do with a fear of the candidates, because I do believe that he really does want Joe Biden, which is why it's not a political thing, it's a corruption thing, because he wants to go up against Joe Biden, because Joe Biden is shaky. He's like an IKEA dresser.
That you put together yourself.
Yeah, that you put together. My theory is politics makes everyone political by their team sport structure, right? You're either on one side or the other. And I think that's what's upsetting Trump is that as once a private citizen, there were no sides to him at all. There were just people you paid, right? He gave donations to Republicans. He gave donations to Democrats. Now he's found himself in this two-sided prison, right? Yeah. And he's like watching people call him political who've created the political environment well before he got there and while he's there. So he's trying, so think about this, a guy that's never been political, who's basically a CEO for the country, whether you like it or not. He's got full employment. He's got a great economy. He got prison reform. He got drug reform. He's got trade resets, whether you like it or not, and wars are being drawn down. A lot of this stuff doesn't land on one side. It's on every side. You could be a lefty in, like, prison reform. You can be a righty in, like, whatever else he's doing, the immigration stuff. The wars. Libertarians must love this guy. So he is not a partisan person. So when you see somebody who's angry, he's angry that there is a side going against him in which he's trying to please all sides. And he's realized that achievements, and they are achievements, are no match for a political party married to the media. He's getting all this crap done, but nobody cares.
But you know what? I think it's about him. What you just said was, it's all about him. There's no party. It's the party of Trump.
So what if he's doing well, though? I mean,
I don't think
we were living in a peaceful, prosperous time.
Yeah, it was peace and prosperous before. But I'm just saying.
With ISIS?
But I'll tell you what strikes me is that he said today, the Democrats have the votes to impeach him, right? Yeah. And to me, this was an important thing to say because he's saying, you know what? So that's going to happen. He doesn't think they can beat him in the Senate. There will be no conviction.
Right.
So he's looking down the road.
Right.
My sense of this is that he wants to win what Jesse was talking about earlier, which is the persuadables.
Right.
And he wants to win in the court of public opinion.
Which he should.
Well, he might. I don't know. I mean, that's why he's going after Schiff. That's why he's making. But you got to come back to the idea. Hey, you know what? We don't need any of this. We all have that memo transcript thing. We know what he did.
And also you have a litany of achievements, and you realize this tug of war is anything. It's anything but, I mean, it's all political, right? It's all political. I feel like I'm the tour guide at Universal Studios, that I'm actually showing the viewers how this show is done, that this is all a show. None of this is real. It's all political. Doesn't matter who's in charge. It happened to Obama. It happened to Clinton. It happened to Bush. It happened to Reagan. And it's happening to Trump.
And it's not just about Trump. He wants what's best for the American people. And he's watching Democrats do nothing on the new NAFTA deal, do nothing on drug prices, and not help anybody achieve a better life.
Yeah.
All right? That's the do-nothing Democrats. That's what he's frustrated about.
That is so wrong.